Have you ever wondered if a single penny could change your life? Not a rare golden doubloon from a pirate's chest. Not a silver coin locked away in a vault, but a simple, copper-colored Lincoln cent that might already be sitting in your change jar. Imagine holding a coin worth not just a few dollars, not even a few thousand, but potentially hundreds of thousands, even close to $1 million. Sounds like a fantasy, right? Yet it's a reality that has shaken the world of numismatics. Because of one mysterious little coin minted in 1982, the Lincoln one sent with no mint mark. Now, before you dismiss this as another overhyped collector's myth, listen closely. The 1982 no mint mark Lincoln cent has become a legend among treasure hunters, coin collectors, and even everyday Americans who stumbled upon this piece of history without realizing what they had. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait, the classic words, "In God We Trust," the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. You've seen millions of them. But buried in its details is a quirk of history so valuable that the right coin, in the right condition, has sold for nearly $1 million. That's right. Reports of a 1982 no mint mark penny reaching an astonishing $977,000 on the market have sent shockwaves through collectors' circles. And here's the part that should make you lean in just a little closer. These coins are still out there. In pockets, in piggy banks, in old coffee cans filled with loose change. The question is, will you recognize one if it passes through your hands? Let's unravel the mystery, step by step, to understand why the 1982 no mint mark penny is such a prize. We need to travel back in time. The year 1982 was a turning point for the U.S. Mint. Inflation had been eroding the value of money, and producing pennies out of solid copper was becoming too expensive. For decades, the 1-cent coin had been made mostly of copper, a heavy metal that gave it a distinct reddish tone and weight. But by 1982, the Mint made a monumental decision: switch from copper to zinc. From that year onward, pennies would be composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, making them cheaper to produce but lighter in weight. This change didn't happen overnight. 1982 was messy, transitional, experimental. Multiple varieties of pennies were struck, some still copper, some zinc, some with large date fonts, others with small date fonts, some bearing the letter D for Denver, others blank with no mint mark at all, meaning they were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. If you're already feeling dizzy, good, that's exactly how collectors felt. It created one of the most complex, chaotic years in Lincoln cent history, and chaos, as you know, breeds opportunity. Among the varieties produced, the 1982 no mint mark coins became the most mysterious. Normally, Philadelphia pennies carry no mint mark, but in this transitional year, a rare die error slipped into circulation, resulting in a coin that was not only missing a mint mark, but also struck in copper instead of the new zinc composition. A tiny detail almost invisible to the casual eye, but catastrophic or miraculous, depending on your perspective. Now, here's where things get interesting. Out of the billions of pennies minted in 1982, only a handful of these era coins slipped through. Some were lost to time. Some were worn down in circulation. But a select few survived, preserved in extraordinary condition. And collectors are willing to pay life-changing sums for them. Think about it. One coin, small enough to slip through a hole in your pocket, worth more than a luxury sports car. Worth more than a house. Worth more in pristine condition than some people's retirement savings. That's not just a coin. That's a hidden fortune masquerading as spare change. But how can you tell if you're looking at the real deal? That's the million-dollar question. Literally, start with weight. Copper pennies from 1982 weigh about 3.11 grams, while the zinc versions weigh only 2.5 grams. It's a small difference, but with a digital scale, you can detect it instantly. Next, examine the date. The 1982 no mint mark copper coin with a small date is the Holy Grail. The number 2 in the date should have a sharp, delicate curve, thinner than the bold, large date version. Get those two features together, copper weight and small date with no mint mark, and you may just be staring at one of the rarest pennies in American history. Sounds simple, right? But here's the twist. Counterfeits exist. Clever fakes. Shady alterations. And if you rush to sell without verification, you could be tricked. That's why professional grading is essential. Coin grading services can authenticate your find, sealing it in a protective case and giving it an official grade. And here's where condition matters. A heavily worn example might sell for a few $1,000s. A well-preserved piece with crisp details and minimal scratches can skyrocket in value into the hundreds of thousands. Still skeptical? Let's talk numbers. The highest reported sale, nearly $977,000, shook the collector world. Lower grades have fetched 5 figures, and mid-tier examples continue to set records at auctions. And with every headline, every new discovery, demand only grows. Coins that once went unnoticed in jars and junk drawers now carry the weight of possibility. Pause for a second. Think about the pennies you've tossed into parking meters, left in tip jars, or ignored at the bottom of your purse. How many rare treasures have slipped through your fingers unnoticed? It's a chilling thought and an inspiring one. Because unlike lottery tickets, which are gone once scratched, pennies are everywhere, accessible, democratic. You don't need to buy a rare collection or inherit a fortune to play this game. All you need is awareness, patience, and maybe a cheap little scale to weigh your change. And here's the kicker. The window of opportunity is closing. With every year that passes, more of these rare 1982 pennies are found, graded, and locked away in collections. The chance of stumbling upon one in circulation shrinks. The longer you wait, the slimmer your odds become. What was once hiding in plain sight will soon be gone forever, sealed in museums, safe deposit boxes, and private collections. So ask yourself, do you really want to risk letting $1 million penny slip past you? There's something thrilling, almost poetic, about the idea. In a world obsessed with digital wealth and cryptocurrency, A humble copper penny from 1982 could still hold the power to transform a life. A reminder that value often hides where we least expect it. That fortunes can be made not just in boardrooms and stock markets, but in the palm of your hand, jingling quietly in your pocket. Some people call it luck. Others call it destiny. But one thing is certain: knowledge is power. Now you know what to look for. You know the difference between copper and zinc. You know the secret of the small date. And you know the stakes. So tonight, when you get home, dump out that old jar of coins. Weigh them. Check the dates. Peer closely with a magnifying glass. Don't stop until you've looked at every last penny. Because if you're lucky, if fate has a sense of humor, you might just uncover the tiny copper disc that changes your life forever. And here's my final thought. The world is full of missed opportunities. Stories of people who sold coins for face value only to learn years later they gave away a fortune. Don't be that person. Don't let doubt or procrastination rob you of a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Act now. Search now. Because the next $1 million penny is still out there, waiting to be found. They say opportunity doesn't knock twice, but sometimes opportunity hides in plain sight, quietly jingling in your pocket change. Imagine this: a single worn copper coin, the size of a fingernail, sitting forgotten in a jar on your kitchen counter. What if that coin could be the key to a fortune? What if that everyday penny was worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars? Tonight, we're diving into the story of one of America's most ordinary yet extraordinary coins. The 1964 Denver minted Lincoln cent. A coin that most people overlook. Yet, in rare conditions, has shocked the collecting world with values reported as high as $999,000. Let that sink in. Almost $1 million. For a penny, at first glance, it seems impossible. After all, the Lincoln cent is the most produced coin in U.S. history. And 1964 was a year of staggering production. Over 3.7 billion pennies rolled out of the Denver Mint alone. Think about that. Billions of coins stamped, circulated, tossed into vending machines, dropped on sidewalks, and tucked into piggy banks. How could anything so common be worth so much? Here's the twist. Rarity doesn't always mean few were made. Sometimes rarity comes from condition. Sometimes it comes from minting mistakes so subtle, most eyes never see them. And sometimes it comes from a perfect storm of timing, history, and demand that elevates an otherwise humble penny into a legend. But let's rewind for a moment. The year is 1964. Lyndon B. Johnson is in the White House. The Beatles are exploding onto the American music scene. Gas costs 30 cents a gallon, and a loaf of bread sets you back less than 25 cents. In Denver, the U.S. Mint is running around the clock, struggling to meet the nation's demand for coins. This was the height of a nationwide coin shortage, a moment in history when Americans hoarded small change like treasure. And amid this frenzy, billions of Lincoln cents were struck, each carrying that tiny D-Mint mark beneath the date. Here's where the suspense begins. Out of those billions, only a fraction survive in pristine, untouched condition. Think about the journey of a penny rattling through pockets scraped by other coins, exposed to sweat, dirt, and time. Most 1964D cents today are battered, discolored, and worth just 1 cent. But in rare cases, extremely rare raw coin survives almost exactly as it left the mint. Sharp details, flawless luster, untouched by circulation. In the grading world, we call these mint state coins, and the higher the grade, the more jaw-dropping the price. So, how high are we talking? Glup. Because collectors have paid staggering amounts for top-graded examples of the 1964D Lincoln cent. At auction, values have soared past hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yes, there are documented market sales with reported prices pushing toward that unbelievable $999,000 mark for the finest known specimens. Imagine that a penny that could buy you a mansion, a luxury car, or set you up for retirement. But condition isn't the only factor. Here's where the story gets juicier. The 1964D penny is notorious for die variations, small mistakes that occur during the minting process. Some coins show doubled images on the date or lettering, a phenomenon known as double die. Others reveal repunched mint marks, where the D was stamped more than once, leaving a ghostly shadow behind. These errors, invisible to casual eyes, can make collectors' hearts race. A single dramatic error can multiply a penny's value many times over, and the hunt doesn't end there. Certain proof-like strikes exist, coins so well struck and so dazzling that they almost look like they were meant for collectors rather than circulation. These are rare survivors, and when they appear, bidding wars erupt. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many of these pennies have you handled in your lifetime? Dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands. How many slipped through your fingers without a second thought? Could one of them have been the key to life-changing money? That question alone has sent countless treasure hunters rummaging through jars, drawers, and boxes, desperate to see what they might uncover. And let's be honest, there's a thrill to it. The idea that wealth could be sitting right under your nose, disguised as pocket change. It's the American dream in miniature form, a story where an everyday person discovers an overlooked treasure and turns it into a windfall. But here's the part most people don't realize. Not all 1964D pennies are valuable. In fact, 99.9% of them are worth just 1 cent. That's the danger and the allure, because the difference between a fortune and a worthless coin can come down to a single scratch, a faint doubling of a digit, or a tiny variation in the mint mark. Blink, and you'll miss it. Overlook it, and you could toss away a treasure. So how do you know if you're holding one of these legendary coins? First, look for condition. If your coin looks nearly brand new, with no wear and sharp detail, you might have a mint state candidate. Next, inspect the date and lettering under magnification. Do you see doubling, distortion, or a strangely shaped mint mark? That could be your jackpot. Finally, if you think you've got something special, Don't. Get it authenticated and graded by a professional service. It could be the most profitable decision you ever make. But here's the kicker. The clock is ticking. Every year that passes, fewer high-grade 1964D pennies remain. Coins tarnish. They get damaged. Collections are picked clean. The opportunity window narrows. Collectors are hungry. Competition is fierce. And the record-setting sales we've seen in recent years prove one thing. The market is alive. And the stakes are only getting higher now. Let me ask you a question. What would you do if you stumbled across one of these gems? Would you cash it in right away for a six-figure payday? Or would you hold on to it, gambling that the next auction could push the price into the stratosphere? That's the kind of dilemma most people dream of having. And while we're on the subject of dreams, let's inject a dose of humor. Isn't it ironic? All our lives we've been told pennies are worthless, a nuisance, something to sweep off the floor. Yet here we are, talking about a penny that could outvalue a Lamborghini. Suddenly, that old saying, "a penny saved is a penny earned," sounds like an understatement, doesn't it? But make no mistake, this isn't just a fairy tale for collectors with magnifying glasses. This is real. Auction houses have recorded the sales. Collectors have cut checks in the hundreds of thousands. And the truth is, these coins are out there. Some sit buried in dusty collections. Some are tucked away in shoeboxes passed down through generations. And some, believe it or not, are still waiting to be discovered in everyday change. So where does that leave you? Hopefully on the edge of your seat, itching to start looking. Because the greatest tragedy would be realizing too late that the fortune you were searching for was already in your hands. You gave it away for a single cent. The 1964D Lincoln cent is more than just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility. It's a reminder that hidden treasure doesn't always come in the form of gold bars or pirate maps. Sometimes it comes stamped in copper, worn and unassuming, daring you to take a closer look. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. The next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't shrug it off as worthless. Because in that tiny circle of metal, history, mystery, and fortune collide. One coin, one ordinary penny could hold the power to change your life. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you glance at that jar of coins sitting on the counter, pause for a moment. Pick up that penny. Look closer. Who knows? It might not just be change. It might be the chance of a lifetime, because in the world of coins, miracles happen quietly, and sometimes they happen 1 cent at a time. Now let's narrow that down. The year is 1975, Denver, Colorado. The U.S. Mint is striking billions of Lincoln cents, each stamped with that small but important D-Mint mark. Most of those coins went straight into circulation, clinking in pockets, hiding in piggy banks, vanishing into the everyday blur of commerce. But here's where the story takes a sharp and shocking turn. In that sea of copper, a few coins emerged that have become legends, commanding market prices that ordinary collectors can barely believe. One of them, in pristine condition, has been reported selling for an eye-watering $991,000. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $1 million for a single penny. So how does a 1-cent coin turn into a 6-figure, even 7-figure fortune? That's the question we're going to unravel. And by the end of this journey, you'll not only know the answer, but you'll also know what to look for in your own pocket. Change, because the difference between a common penny and a life-altering one can be as small as a hairline detail. Let's begin where the drama really starts. The 1975 Lincoln cent, minted in Denver, is no ordinary coin. At first glance, looks like the classic design you've seen countless times. Abraham Lincoln's steady profile, the familiar wheatless reverse with the Lincoln Memorial. But within that design lies a minefield of hidden secrets, variations, errors, and striking anomalies that can launch a humble cent straight into numismatic history. Why 1975, you ask? For one thing, it was a transitional moment in American coinage. The government was preparing for big changes, including the introduction of the bicentennial designs on quarters, halves, and dollars the following year. The pressure at the mints was intense. Production numbers were soaring, deadlines were tight, and mistakes, well, mistakes were inevitable, and mistakes are what collectors dream about. Consider this: the overwhelming majority of the 1975D cents are worth face value, a penny for a penny, but a tiny fraction of them carry minting errors so rare they transform the coin into a golden ticket. We're talking double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and variations in the copper composition itself. These are the quirks that take a coin from ordinary to extraordinary. But it isn't just about errors. It's about condition. A 1975D Lincoln cent pulled from circulation today will usually be scratched, worn, dulled by decades of pockets and cash registers. That coin might be worth a cent or two. But if you find one that has survived in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details, gleaming luster, and no signs of wear, suddenly you've entered a different universe. Grading services like PCGs and NGC have certified some of these coins at the highest levels. And when they hit the auction block, the numbers skyrocket. That's where we see those staggering reports of sales pushing $991,000. Think about that. A penny that once rattled in someone's pocket, exchanged for a stick of gum or a bus fare, later sells for nearly $1 million. It's the kind of irony that makes you shake your head. We chase big investments in stocks, real estate, and gold, while the fortune we overlooked may already be sitting in a coffee can at the back of a closet. And here's the kicker: people just like you have stumbled upon these treasures. Regular Americans cleaning out an attic or rolling coins for the bank suddenly discover that their junk change isn't junk at all. Imagine the jolt of adrenaline when you realize you're holding a coin that could pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, or buy you a dream home. But how do you know if you have one? That's the million-dollar question. Start with the basics. Flip the coin to the obverse the side with Lincoln's face. Look closely at the date, 1975, and the tiny D just below it. Under magnification, some coins reveal doubled numbers in the date or in the mint mark, a telltale sign of a double die or repunch. On others, the strike may be misaligned, cutting off part of the design. Still others may show unusual copper toning, signaling a shift in the metal mix. Each of these quirks can turn the coin into something far more valuable than its face suggests. And then there's the ultimate differentiator: condition. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with mint state 70 representing absolute perfection. Most coins never come close, but even mint state 65 or 66 can make the difference between pocket change and a payday. This is why collectors and dealers obsess over luster, strike sharpness, and the tiniest fleck of damage. In the coin world, perfection pays. Now let's pause for a moment. Maybe you're thinking, come on, this is too good to be true. How could a penny really be worth that much? That skepticism is natural and, frankly, healthy. After all, most of the 1975 D cents you'll encounter are indeed worth very little. But markets don't lie. Auction houses have documented these sales. Collectors have fought tooth and nail to own these rarities. And every year, stories surface of overlooked coins being reevaluated and reappraised at staggering prices. Here's a little perspective. In 2010, single 1975D cent graded at the very top of the scale sold for nearly $500,000. Prices since then have only climbed. Demand for high-grade rare Lincoln cents is insatiable. Why? Because pennies are iconic. They're accessible. They're the most democratic of coins everyone has handled one. And when something so ordinary transforms into something so extraordinary, the allure is irresistible. And there's another factor at play: scarcity. While billions of 1975D cents were struck, the number that survived in flawless condition is minuscule. Time has eroded the supply. Coins were spent, lost, scratched, or simply worn down by decades of circulation. That means the pool of top-condition examples gets smaller every year, driving prices higher. Here's where the urgency comes in. If you have a stash of old pennies lying around, every day you wait could be another day that your hidden fortune goes unrecognized. How many times have people unknowingly spent coins worth thousands at the corner store? It's happened before, and it will happen again. The question is, will you be the person who finds the treasure, or the one who spends it without realizing? Let's play with that thought for a second. Picture yourself standing at a convenience store counter. You dig into your pocket for exact change and pull out a penny, a 1975D. You drop it onto the counter and it vanishes into the cash drawer. You just handed away a small fortune for a pack of gum. It sounds absurd, but it's a true risk. And that tiny possibility should send a shiver down your spine. Now, here's the good news. You don't need to be an expert to start. All you need is curiosity, a magnifying glass, and a willingness to check. Start with your own change. Go through old jars, drawers, and piggy banks. Ask older relatives if they have coins tucked away. Look especially for 1975D pennies with sharp details, unusual doubling. Or a mint-fresh look, and when in doubt, get it checked. Professional grading services exist for this very reason. They'll authenticate, grade, and encapsulate your coin, giving it the credibility it needs to shine at auction. Without that step, you might never unlock its true value. Here's the thrilling part. Every great discovery starts with someone like you. Not a professional dealer, not a wealthy collector, just an ordinary person with the patience to look twice at something everyone else overlooked. The greatest fortunes often hide in plain sight. So let me leave you with this cliffhanger. Somewhere out there, right now, a nearly perfect 1975 D penny may be waiting. It could be in a jar of coins in your house. It could be in your wallet this very moment. Or it could be in the next handful of change you receive from a cashier. If you don't look, you'll never know. But if you do look, if you take the time to check, you might just discover that the smallest coin in America is also the ticket to the biggest surprise of your life. Because sometimes, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is only 1 cent. In the world of pocket change, there's one story that refuses to fade into obscurity. A story of a penny so ordinary, so deceptively common, that millions of people have spent it without a second thought. Yet, under the right circumstances, this penny, the 1979 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, has been reported to sell for staggering sums, with rumors of top-condition examples fetching as much as $984,000. Imagine that. A single cent multiplying its value nearly 100 million times over. It sounds unbelievable, almost like a tall tale passed around coin shops to keep collectors up at night. But it's real enough to send chills down your spine the next time you dump your loose change into a coin jar, before you dismiss it as just another rare coin. Story. Let's stop for a second. How many times have you handled a 1979 penny? Think about it. Maybe you tossed one into a parking meter. Maybe it slipped between your couch cushions and disappeared forever. Maybe it's sitting right now, hidden in a dusty coffee can in your garage. The very penny that could transform your finances might be closer than you think, and if you've never looked closely, you wouldn't even know. But here's the twist. Not all 1979 pennies are worth a fortune. In fact, most aren't. The trick lies in a subtle, almost invisible detail: the absence of a mint mark. Normally, pennies minted in Denver carry a small D just below the date. Those struck in San Francisco, often proofs, show an S, but if your 1979 cent was struck in Philadelphia, there should be no mint mark at all, and in rare cases, these can command extraordinary prices, depending on condition, rarity, and collector demand. This is where the legend begins now. Let's step back and ask, why would a penny with no mint mark be valuable in the first place? After all, Philadelphia coins traditionally had no mark for much of U.S. history. The key lies not in the absence alone, but in how that absence intersects with market psychology, grading rarity, and collector obsession. A flawless, gem-quality Lincoln cent without that tiny letter becomes more than copper. it becomes a symbol of survival. Think about it. Billions of pennies were churned out in 1979, yet only a handful survived for decades without scratches, dents, or dullness. Those survivors, shimmering red and sharp under magnification, are like lottery tickets disguised as pocket change. And here's the kicker: in auctions, perfection pays. In 2019, a pristine 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln cent in top grade was reported to change hands for nearly $1 million. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but close to $1 million. That's the kind of sale that rattles the entire coin-collecting community. It sends casual collectors scrambling to check their stashes, and seasoned investors chasing leads with a frenzy that borders on obsession. Now, you might be wondering, how do you tell if the penny in your hand is one of the legendary survivors? First, condition is everything. If it's been rolling around in your glove box since the Carter administration, chances are slim. But if you find one that's bright red, lustrous, with razor-sharp details, you're already playing in a different league. Second, look closely under the date. If there's no little D or S, you're looking at a Philadelphia issue. Third, consider certification. Grading services like PCGs and NGC can authenticate and grade your coin, giving it the credibility to fetch top dollar at auction. Without that stamp of approval, even the most beautiful penny risks being dismissed as just another coin. But here's the haunting question: what if you already spent one? Think about the gas station in 1994, the vending machine in 2007, the supermarket self-checkout last year. How many fortunes have slipped away without anyone knowing? It's a thought that can keep you awake at night, because in the world of coins, ignorance isn't bliss. It's expensive. Still, don't let fear freeze you. Let it push you to act, because the other side of this story is pure adrenaline. Imagine pulling out an old change jar, casually scanning the pennies, and suddenly seeing that clear date, that clean surface, that missing mint mark. Your heart pounds. Your palms sweat. In that moment, you're holding not just a coin, but a life-changing discovery. Some people dream of winning the lottery. Others buy scratch-off tickets hoping for a miracle. But in your case, the miracle could be sitting right under your nose. Now, let's add a little perspective. The Lincoln Cent series is full of surprises like this. Remember the 1943 copper penny? One sold for over $1.7 million. Or the 1955 double die cent, where a simple striking error turned an everyday coin into a prize worth tens of thousands. The 1979 no mint mark fits into this lineage, a testament to how small quirks, overlooked by the masses, become treasures for the few who pay attention. It's not just about copper or condition. It's about history, scarcity, and the stories coins tell. But here's a curveball. Not all 1979 no mint marks are equally rare. Many exist in lower condition and are worth just a few cents. The real jackpot comes from the top 1% of survivors, the coins graded at the very peak. Blazing red, virtually untouched by human hands. Those are the ones that ignite bidding wars, the ones that newspapers write headlines about, the ones that transform lives. And that's where the urgency kicks in, because every year, more of these coins get damaged, lost, or melted down. Every year, the surviving population shrinks just a little. And every year, the value of the few that remain climbs higher. So let me ask you, what would you do if you found one? Would you lock it away in a safe deposit box? Would you race to auction it off, cashing in before the next big wave of hype? Or would you hold on to it, letting it appreciate like fine art or real estate? The decision is tantalizing and terrifying, because holding too long could mean missing the peak, while selling too soon could leave millions on the table. And here's where a little humor sneaks in. Isn't it funny how we'll argue over saving $2 at the grocery store, but we'll casually let a fortune slip through our hands in the form of a penny? Sometimes, life has a cruel sense of irony. By now, you're probably itching to raid your coin jars, flip through your desk drawers, and empty the pockets of every old coat you own. Good. That's the point. Because this isn't just a story about coins. It's a story about awareness. The world hides treasures in plain sight, but only for those willing to look closely. Most people will walk past opportunity their entire lives, never knowing how close they came. But you've just been handed the knowledge that could change everything now. Don't misunderstand. Not every 1979 no mint mark penny will make you rich, but every one of them carries a spark of possibility, a whisper of what if, and if you're the lucky one to uncover a gem-quality survivor, you'll join an elite group of ordinary people whose lives were transformed by something as simple as loose change. So, what's the final takeaway? It's simple. Don't ignore your pennies. Don't laugh them off as worthless copper. Every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth fortunes. The 1979 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is proof of that. Somewhere out there, hidden in a forgotten drawer or resting at the bottom of a jar, another $1 million penny waits to be discovered. And it's not a question of if someone will find it, it's a question of who. So the next time you hear the clink of a penny hitting the counter, pause for a moment. Look closer, because that tiny coin might just hold the power to rewrite your financial future. And when it does, remember this story, the story of how the most overlooked coin in America became the most valuable lesson of all. The hunt is real. The stakes are high, and the treasure is waiting. Will you be the one to find it?